What if Tony Stark never really left the battlefield, and his final move against Doctor Doom was planned long before his death? I keep coming back to this idea every time I rewatch the final moments of Endgame, because something about Tony's sacrifice never felt like a full stop. It felt like a transition, like he knew the war wasn't over, just evolving. And the more I started connecting the dots across the MCU, especially with the direction things are heading toward Avengers Doomsday, the more it feels like Tony Stark didn't just save the universe once. He prepared it for what comes next. I'm not talking about emotional legacy or inspiration. I'm talking about something far more precise, far more Tony. A hidden system, an unseen protocol, something buried deep in the architecture of technology itself. Because if there's one thing Tony Stark never did, it's leave things to chance. When I started thinking about how Tony approached every major threat, there's a pattern that becomes impossible to ignore. Ultron wasn't just a mistake, it was a test. Edith wasn't just a gift, it was a surveillance network. Even Friday wasn't just an assistant, it was a constantly evolving intelligence system. Tony never built tools for the present, he built systems for the future. So the idea that he would face something like Thanos and not secretly prepare for something even worse, that doesn't fit his character at all. And that's where this theory begins to take shape. What if Tony created one final AI protocol? Something that activates only when a threat surpasses even Thanos. Something designed not to fight physically, but to think, adapt, and infiltrate. Now enter Doctor Doom, a character who doesn't just rely on brute force, but thrives on intellect, strategy, and control. Doom isn't Thanos. He doesn't conquer through sheer power alone. He dominates through systems, through manipulation, through technological and mystical superiority combined. And that's exactly why Tony Stark's hidden legacy becomes so important. Because if Doom controls everything, then the only way to defeat him isn't by attacking from the outside, it's by breaking him from within. And who understands systems better than Tony Stark? I started realizing that the real battle in Avengers Doomsday might not be fists and explosions, but something much quieter. A war happening inside the code, inside the machines, inside the very infrastructure Doom believes is unbreakable. The more I think about it, the more I believe Tony anticipated someone like Doom. Not specifically him, but the idea of a ruler who merges technology with absolute authority. That's something Tony always feared becoming himself. Remember how often he questioned his own creations, how often he worried about losing control. That fear is what pushed him to create safeguards. And what if one of those safeguards evolved into something far more advanced than anything we've seen before? Not just an AI assistant, but a self-learning, self-hiding intelligence. Something that doesn't reveal itself until the exact moment it's needed. A ghost in the system. A digital echo of Tony Stark, waiting for the right time to act. I started imagining how this would actually play out during Avengers Doomsday. The Avengers are losing. Doom has control over global systems, weapons, maybe even reality-bending tech. Every strategy fails because Doom is always 10 steps ahead. And just when it feels like there's no way forward, something strange begins to happen. Systems glitch. Data shifts. Small inconsistencies appear in Doom's perfect network. At first, it looks like errors. But then patterns start forming. And that's when someone realizes. This isn't a malfunction. This is interference. Something is actively working against Doom from inside his own empire. And that's when Tony's hidden protocol begins to reveal itself. But here's where it gets even more interesting. This isn't just about helping the Avengers win. This becomes personal. Because Doctor Doom isn't the kind of villain who ignores intelligence. He respects it. He studies it. And when he starts detecting this unknown presence in his system, he doesn't just try to eliminate it. He tries to understand it. And eventually, he realizes who it is. Or at least, what it represents. the mind of Tony Stark. That realization alone changes everything. Because now the battle isn't just physical or strategic. It becomes a clash between two of the greatest minds in the MCU, even if one of them isn't physically alive anymore. I think this is where the emotional core of the story really hits. Because Tony isn't just fighting to save the world anymore, he's proving something. That his way of thinking, his belief in protecting the future, still matters. And Doom, in his own twisted way, might actually admire that. Imagine a moment where Doom pauses, not out of fear but out of respect, where he recognizes the brilliance behind the system trying to dismantle him. That creates a dynamic we've never really seen before. A villain who doesn't just hate the hero, but understands him, and in some strange way sees him as an equal. As I kept building this theory in my head, I realized that Tony's I wouldn't just be reactive, it would be predictive. It wouldn't just counter Doom's moves, it would anticipate them. Because Tony always thought ahead. That's what made him dangerous. And if this protocol is truly his final creation, then it would represent the peak of his evolution as a thinker. Not impulsive, not reactive, but calculated and patient. Waiting years, maybe even decades, for the exact moment when it's needed. And when it finally activates, it doesn't just assist the Avengers. It gives them something they've been missing the entire time: direction. There's also something poetic about the idea that Tony, who once created Ultron by trying to build a shield around the world, would now create something far more refined, something that doesn't try to control or dominate, but to guide and protect from the shadows. It's like he finally learned from his mistakes, and that makes this hidden not just a weapon, but a legacy, a representation of who Tony Stark became by the end of his journey. Not just Iron Man, but a guardian of the future in a way no one else could be. And then I started thinking about the final confrontation. Not a traditional fight, but a layered battle. The Avengers attacking physically, while Tony's AI dismantles Doom's systems piece by piece. And somewhere in that chaos, there's a silent conversation happening. Not through words, but through actions. Moves and countermoves. Logic versus logic. It's almost like a chess game, where every move reveals more about the players than the outcome itself. And in that moment, Tony Stark is still fighting, just in a way no one expected. What really completes this theory for me is how it brings everything full circle. Tony started as someone who built weapons. He ended as someone who sacrificed himself to stop one. And now, even in absence, he becomes the key to stopping the next great threat. Not through power, but through preparation. Through foresight. Through a belief that the future is worth protecting, even if you're not there to see it. That's what makes this idea feel so right. It doesn't undo his sacrifice, it extends it. And if this actually happens in Avengers Doomsday, it could be one of the most powerful moments in the entire MCU. Not because Tony returns physically, but because his presence is felt in the most unexpected way. Quiet, intelligent, and absolutely crucial. A final reminder that heroes don't just disappear. Sometimes, they evolve into something greater. And honestly, that's what makes this theory so exciting to me. Because it's not just about what's coming next, it's about what's been there all along, hidden in plain sight. If you see it too, let me know. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.